Pizza has essentially become a blank canvas where you could basically make whatever you want with it. Every region of the world has their own style of dough or cooking method, but the second you start talking about toppings, then you could get some passionate opinions on what's appropriate and what's not. If you want to prove it, just go out and start asking people what they think of pineapple on pizza. So you can imagine my reaction when I find out in Sweden, not only do they embrace pineapple on pizza, but also banana. Of course, me being curious, I decided to give it a shot, and it actually turns out to be one of my favorite pizza toppings. One of the variations that's extremely popular in Sweden is something they call the Africana, which features the sweetness of banana along with some smoky ham and a little bit of spice from some curry powder. Pair that with the right beer and you have an unforgettable combination. I'm going to show you how I make pizza at home using my Ooni Fyra. The toppings are up to you, but I'm going to stick with this unique combination out of Sweden on this episode of Bacon and Brew. Like any good pizza, we need to start out with a good dough. I'm going to use 200 milliliters of water along with 1/4 tablespoon of instant yeast. Now this doesn't sound like a lot of yeast, but we're actually going to ferment this dough overnight. So that yeast is going to have a lot of time to do its job. I'm then going to add 300 grams of type 00 flour. Pizza dough recipes really just come down to hydration rate, which is simply the amount of water by weight divided by the amount of flour. This puts us at about 67% hydration, which anywhere between 60 and 70% is typical. This also means the water is exactly 2/3 as the amount of flour, so that makes the recipe easy to remember. And this will give me a total of 500 grams of dough, or 250 gram dough balls, which is perfect for my pizza oven. I'm mixing this for about 10 minutes in my mixer, which is overkill because we're going to do some stretch and folds to develop the gluten. So if you don't have a mixer, you could totally do this just in a separate bowl. I'm going to cover this and let it rest 10 minutes before doing my first set of stretch and folds. After that rest, I'll wet my hands so the dough doesn't stick. And just grab one side, stretch it out as much as I can, and fold it over. And rotate it and do it again, and so on until I get the dough ball just a little bit tighter. I'll cover this back up and let it rest another 10 minutes. After a short rest, I'll do it all over again. Give it a stretch, fold it over, and rotate. Cover this back up and give it yet another 10-minute rest. And now I'll do my final set of stretching and folding. And this method could be even more effective than kneading, especially for high hydration doughs. And as you can see, the dough's starting to feel a little tighter and it's holding its shape better too. I'll cover this back up and then just let it rest 10 more minutes. And now it's time to shape. I'll dust my countertop with some flour and divide this into 2 dough balls. This might seem like a short rest for an overnight dough, but I've had good luck with a very short bulk fermentation and then shaping them and put them in the refrigerator overnight. I'll just take each one and fold it in on itself, and then very awkwardly roll it into the ball as I try to reach around my camera without knocking it over. And as I do that, I'll just create some tension along the outside. You may have also noticed what's not in the recipe, which is any oil or sugar whatsoever. And that's because those assist in browning. Now I know you're probably thinking, don't I always rave about the Maillard reaction and how great the flavors are? Well, the Ooni pizza oven gets up over 900 degrees, and at that temperature, it's called burning. So the only oil you'll see in this recipe is just a little bit to grease these two bowls, where I'll put a dough ball in each one, cover it with plastic wrap, and move this to the refrigerator where it'll sit overnight. The next day, I'm ready to fire up my pizza oven. I'm using the Ooni Fyra, which utilizes wood pellets, so I'm just going to load up the tray with pellets and use one of these little tumbleweeds to get the fire started. And once the fire gets rolling, then I'll load the pellet chamber. Ooni actually doesn't make this model of pizza oven anymore. In fact, they don't make any oven that uses wood pellets. I suspect that's because it's really difficult to control the temperature, but for me that's part of the fun with it, because then you really got to watch the pizza and use your instinct to know when to turn or when to remove. Pizza ovens like this are more accessible now than ever, but if you don't have one, which I imagine is most people, the recipe could be modified to use a home oven, which will cook at a lot lower temperature. And this usually takes about 15 to 20 minutes to preheat. I'm going to check the temperature of my baking stone after 15 minutes just to see where we're at. And it looks like we're already over 900 degrees, but I'm going to let that preheat for another 5 minutes as I prepare my pizza dough. Once you start making the pizza, you're going to want to move very quickly, so it's important to have all your ingredients in place. I'm going to start shredding my cheese. Most recipes use mozzarella, but I've seen smoked Gouda out there too, and since I want the extra smokiness to pair with my beer, I'm going to use a blend of smoked Gouda and mozzarella. This cheese out to the side, and generously flour my countertop with some semolina flour and start preparing my dough. Semolina flour is more coarse than your typical flour, so it should help prevent the dough from sticking to the peel. I had already removed my dough from the refrigerator about an hour ago to let it come to room temperature, and now I'm just going to gently press it out. You don't need to be fancy and throwing the dough in the air, just leave it on the countertop and use your fingers to press it down. And now I'll work around the outside, spreading it gently. As I pick up the dough, I'm going to try to use my knuckles, just because they're more rounded than my fingertips, so they're less likely to puncture the dough. And I'm working around the outside, just using gravity to let it fall. The inside's likely going to stretch out on its own, so I want to put most of my effort around the perimeter. That's about the size and shape I want, so I'm going to start topping my pizza. I think I have enough going on in this pizza already, so I'm just going to use the store-bought sauce. Once I spread that in a thin layer, I'm going to add another one of those signature ingredients to this dish, a little bit of curry powder. No specific amount, I'm just going to sprinkle it on liberally. And then top it off with my cheese blend. I don't want to overdo it with the cheese, but I want to make sure I have good coverage. And then cover it with some sliced bananas. And I'm sure the pizza purists are cringing right now, but the sweetness of banana is really what makes this pizza. And finally, some diced ham to add a little bit of that salty, smoky flavor. Now I'll swiftly slide my peel underneath. And that was my last chance to get the pizza in the exact shape I want. Since it rested a little bit as I was putting the toppings on, the gluten relaxed and it just make it a little easier to stretch out. And now we're ready for the oven. I'll remove the door and slide the pizza right in there. And to get the best convection inside the oven, I'm going to put the door back on. Now, I'm not setting a timer or anything. I have to stay with it every second of the way. The difference between a perfect pizza and a burnt pizza is just a few seconds on this. Most of the heat is toward the back of this oven, so I'm going to have to open up the door, pull the pizza out and just rotate it about a half a turn. And I'll put it back in there. Again, a few seconds makes a huge difference, so I'm not going to let it sit too long before checking again. And I'm starting to see some signs of char already, so I'm just going to rotate it a little bit and put it back in. And as I get closer to the pizza being finished, I'm going to start checking it more frequently and just judging it based on its appearance to see which side needs a little more. And this pizza is being cooked from both sides. The heat from the stone is heating up the bottom, while that rolling flame should be melting the cheese on top. I'll just take a look at it, see which side needs a little more char, and I'll put that end toward the flame. And don't forget, you could always put it in a little longer, but once it gets that full char, you can't really come back from that. Don't forget to check the bottom. The bottom's about where I want it. I don't think I want any more char on the bottom, so I'm just going to hold it up with the peel to get that rolling flame to cook the top a little more. I just want to get this one side a little more, and then I think I'm really happy with the way this turned out. I'll lay this on my cutting board and cut it into 6 even slices. Oops, I almost forgot the roasted peanuts. No, I wasn't done being weird yet. And there it is, the Africana pizza, a Swedish specialty. And I got that nice leopard pattern on a crust from those little bits of char. And that overnight dough gave me some great structure on the gluten. Let's take a closer look at that crust cross section. Got some big air pockets, so it should be nice and chewy. And no pizza is truly complete without the right beer, and I'm going with Schlenkerla Weizen, a German wheat beer with a strong smoky finish. Now, if you've seen my other videos, first of all, thank you, but you're probably thinking that I already did a beer from Schlenkerla before when I made a Basque cheesecake with their Erbach. I think that smoke character in all of Schlenkerla's beers does so well with so many foods. And I'll admit that Weizen is their beer that I usually dismiss in favor of the bigger, maltier beers. But this goes to show you that the right beer and food pairing could give underappreciated flavors the respect that they deserve. German wheat beers are well known for having a strong flavor of banana and clove. Although those flavors aren't usually combined with smoke, Schlenkerla adds their own signature flavor to this beer by smoking the barley malt over beechwood. And that combination of smoke and banana is why this pizza combination caught my attention. I actually don't really get much banana flavor out of the beer, but the other flavors are very complementary to banana, that smoke and the clove-like phenols. And of course, pizza and beer is always a winning combination. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and join me next time when I take another classic beer and find the perfect bake to pair with it.